Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our countdown of the 25 greatest moments in Survivor history. My name is Mike Bloom, and we have made it. We have spent the better part of a little over a month taking a stroll down memory lane, talking through some of the biggest, brightest, most epic, and overall best moments that the series has had to offer in honor of its 25th anniversary. And now, it comes to an epic conclusion as today we are talking through the top 5 baby moments as voted on by you, the listeners. And I could not be alone in this endeavor. I have been joined by a fantastic panel of alumni each and every week here on the podcast, and today is no different. As to finish off this entire process, I am joined here on the microphone by two guys that are luminaries in the Survivor alumni community, in the RHAP community, here to offer their perspectives on the top 5 moments in Survivor history. First off, I mentioned top 5, baby. Let's talk about somebody who was from the season that coined the phrase from the great Survivor Cagayan. It's the Purple Pants badass himself, Brice Izyah.
Hello. Oh, a top 5. I don't feel worthy enough. Does this mean I finally made the merge if I'm in the top 5?
Oh, you made the finale, baby.
Oh, I don't know what this feels like. It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's so much fun to be here. And I've never podcasted with Steven before. I feel like this is, I'm a virgin all over again. I'm so excited.
All right. Well, here to bite the cherry or the apple. We talked about James last time, perhaps.
They bite the cherry? I guess you you could do the tongue. You tie the cherry with your tongue.
Listen, every pot for a lid. And we are here talking with somebody who is an out-and-out know-it-all. And we'll see if he knows it all when it comes to guessing what the top 5 moments in Survivor history might be. But so excited to welcome in Stephen Fishbach.
Thank you. So I have been in the top 5, but as I know very well, and as one moment is about to learn very soon, it doesn't really matter if you're in the top 5 unless you're the number 1 moment.
Yes, exactly. So here we are, as you mentioned, Brice. We have a little bit of new mixed in with a lot of pontification of the old, considering that as much as you two have been such pillars of coverage on RHAP for the better part of 10 to 15 years, this is the first time that the two of you are together talking about Survivor. That's just wild to me.
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
I love it. I'm excited.
The legend, Brice. I mean, it's crazy. Like, this is really crazy. It's crazy that we've never done it before. And I mean, I'm just delighted. I can't wait.
All right. So before we get into our top 5, I'm just going to, lovingly delay things further as we'll take an even further look back at this entire process. Again, we sent out a survey, a list of 100 moments cherry picked throughout the past 48 seasons of Survivor to the listeners of RHAP. 6,000 of you responded in kind, which was very kind of you. And these were the results. Number 25 from Survivor 43 was, of course, Jesse betrays Cody. We then had number 24, Rupert steals the shoes from Survivor Pearl Islands. Number 23, Steven, from your season, initially, coach's trip to Exile Island from Tocantins. Number 22, Caleb shot in the dark hits from Survivor 45. And number 21, Cerise 3-1 vote from Survivor Panama. Number 20, Sandra wins twice in Heroes versus Villains. 19, Scoopin falls in the fire from Survivor. Yes, exactly. Survivor the Australian Outback. The only time before season 35 we were rooting for the fire. Number 18, Tony's Spy Shack from Brice, Survivor Cagayan. 17, Advantage Get In, the series of events that took out Suri in Survivor Game Changers. 16, Heidi and Jenna strip for chocolate and peanut butter, and the man behind this podcast just stood and watched from Survivor the Amazon. 15, Stephanie becomes a tribe of one. The oolonging is complete on Survivor Palau. 14, Boston Rob proposes to Amber on All Stars.
Does that mean David proposing to Carolina is going to be in the top 5? Because you haven't mentioned that one yet.
Yes, exactly. It's, as we know, a demonstrably better proposal. But no, of course, on the opposite side of love is hate, as was moment number 13, Boston Rob betrays Lex, also from Survivor All Stars. Number 12, the jury vote ties in the finale of Survivor Ghost Island, featuring your boy, Brice Wendell. Number 11, Operation Italy from Survivor 47. And getting into the moments on our last podcast, number 10, JT's letter to Russell from Survivor Heroes versus Villains. Number 9, Liz's Applebee's meltdown from Survivor 46. Number 8, James gets voted out with 2 idols from a Survivor China. Number 7, Angelina asks for Natalie's jacket from David versus Goliath. And finally, number 6, it's an effing stick from Survivor Micronesia. Before we get into the top 5 here, as we're going through the list, Steven, did anything stand out to you in terms of moments that were represented, character versus strategy, old versus new, etc.?
I mean, definitely the recency of it was interesting to me, like how many of them came from the last couple of seasons. You know, I wonder if this had been done. Well, obviously, if it was done before the 40s, probably a lot of those 40s wouldn't have been on here. But if it were done later, like I wonder if things like Jesse betraying Cody would have like made it, you know, there's some new betrayal. You know, there's so many like classic betrayals.
You got fun betrayal.
Why like that? I mean, and it was a very good, very powerful betrayal. But I did like that it was a, you know, a whole range of different types of moments. You had that big strategy moment. You know, you had this kind of fun character moments. You know, Stephanie becoming a tribe of one. Of course, like Jenna and Heidi stripping for peanut butter. You know, it was like not related to strategy at all. But you know, a big moment for the show. So yeah, it was cool to see like it's all the different types of moments that the Survivor has generated.
Brice, what about you? Any thoughts? I mean, your mouth was jaw agape as you were experiencing blindside after blindside as these moments popped up on the list.
It was a lot. It makes me, again, I'm only 25 years old, so a lot of these moments happened, you know, when I was 7 and 6. But the fact that Operation Italy and It's a Effing Stick are in the same category, I loved it. And it just makes you think of the evolution of Survivor and the type of like the Jesse blindside as compared to him going home with 2 idols, right? Like, and I think at that point in time, they were like, the dumbest Survivor ever. And like, it's the pinnacle of Survivor to me. So it's great to see. Now, mind you, I don't know what's happening through 5 through 1, but I hope my good girlfriend Corinne's tribal is up on there when because that is legendary to me. That is when I have to write my manager, I always write in Corinne voice to my manager and my supervisor, to whom it may concern. You are okay, but yeah, no, those moments are so great. It's so classic.
Yeah, I guess to that point, before we get into the top 5, Steven, is there sort of like an off the beaten path type of moment that you've always loved across Survivor history that probably would not have made the top 25 or even this list in general that you've always held near and dear to your heart?
Just the little absurd moments. I mean, like I'm thinking of like Courtney and Heroes versus Villain. I mean, obviously when Courtney does the bandy leg troll bit, but you know, there's also like she like walks by. I think it's like Russell and like Coach are on a teeter totter, and then she reacts. Like I'm hoping that's in the top 5 because that's in my personal top 5.
Spoiler alert, yes, Coach and Russell briefly on the teeter-totter in the 2-hour premiere of Heroes versus Villains did not make the list.
But my number one moment, and I don't know if this is gonna be in the top 5. My number one moment, my favorite moment in all Survivor is Billy confessing his love for Candace. So I mean, maybe that will be in the top 5 because that's a big moment. So, you know, I guess it remains to be seen.
All right, well, let's get into the top 5 finally, shall we? And look, this entire time I've given our guests a series of hints to help them be guided to the correct answers. But listen, we're at the top 5 moments here. I've been reading the comments, seeing the general discourse over the past week. People have a good sense as to what at least most of the top 5 moments in Survivor history would be. I think the bigger intrigue is going to be what sort of rates above what, and ultimately what is the number 1 moment in Survivor history. So we are bowling without bumpers here, gentlemen. I'm not going to give any. I'm going to be like
for me.
I'm going to be like Survivor Nicaragua, or you know, one of these other seasons after Russell, where we're not giving clues to find the idols. You just got to go digging, sticking your hand in trees. So let's start flying blind here.
Okay.
Steven Fishbach, what do you think is the number 5 moment in Survivor history? Because you have to kind of thread this needle, right? This is a moment where it rates incredibly highly. It's considered one of the most iconic moments in the show's history. But you have to think about, but it's less iconic than 4 other moments, you know?
Right. So can we just talk through it a little bit as we said?
Sure.
So we're thinking like Rats and Snakes speech. We're thinking Erik gives up immunity is up there. We're thinking like the finale of Tocantins when I said the classic line, "I trust you, but I trust me more." That's got to be in this mix too.
Oh, Steven, you spoiled number 1.
I mean, I'm kind of bullish on, I mean, not to be a one-trick pony here, but I'm kind of bullish on Billy and Candace. Like, to me, that's a great moment, and it's not here. Is it here? No. So, and I think, but that's not going to be top 4. So I feel like maybe that is number 5.
Steven, have you ever seen Kagiyan, the second episode? ... I mean, I feel like that, you know.
That actually should be. That is like that should be on this. I mean, that's got to be a bigger moment than like Jesse betrays Cody.
I don't know about that.
I was also, waiting until Jesse betrays Cody launches an entire podcast empire, and then maybe it'll be equivalent.
An honorable mention that I'm sure it's not in the top 5, and it wasn't in the other 20, is Philip Shepard and Francesca Hoagie. That again is part of my allure. My name's Francesca.
Well, what do you think, Brice? What, in your opinion, could be the number 5 moment in Survivor history?
Okay, in my personal, I don't know what the number 5, but I think should be in the top 5 is I think us getting a second time winner should be up there, because I remember that night that happened. That was like a gag-a-rooney for me. And Sandra held that title for such a long time. So I don't know what the top 5 moment is, but I definitely think that moment should absolutely be in there.
All right, well, let's find out together, shall we? And as always, I will play a clip of what the moment is. Spoiler alert, because these are very big moments, these might be longer clips than as per usual, but hopefully getting to relive these things in audio form will keep your attention abated for this amount of time. Here is the number 5 moment in Survivor history.
You know what, Jeff? I may be on the bottom, but I'm not ready to go home yet.
Oh my God.
That was you!
No way. Oh my God.
You didn't know?
No. I had no idea.
This is my favorite moment.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Oh my God. I like this. Good job.
Done.
Yes.
This is a hidden immunity item. Any votes cast for Wentworth will not count. I'll read the votes. First vote. Wentworth will not count. Wentworth will not count. Wentworth will not count. Wentworth will not count. Wentworth will not count.
Funny.
Savage.
All right, baby.
Unbelievable. 8th person voted out and the second member of our jury. Savage. It's 2, that's enough. You need to bring me your torch. That sounds good. Chop spoken. Time for the go.
Good deal, Andrew.
You made it to the jury.
All right. So while this might have been Sierra's favorite moment in Survivor history, in the moment it is the number 5 moment in Survivor history, according to the fans. Stephen Fishbach, it's a moment that you were there to experience in person. It is indeed Kelly Wentworth's idol play. Wentworth will not count, her first one, I should say, in Survivor Cambodia.
Yeah. And while there, all I was thinking was like, please not me, please not me, please not me, please not me. But like, truly, like, I think probably everybody there was thinking that, you know, before. I think at the time, of course, like, this really shifted the dynamics of the game. It kind of like elevated Wentworth's star. I remember the next day, everyone on the beach was like taking meetings with Wentworth because, you know, suddenly she was like, she had all the sizzle. But I don't think at the time I would have said this is a top 5 moment in Survivor. And I think part of that came from not recognizing how great a game Wentworth was playing up to that point. Like, you know, until I watched it back and saw all the ways she was kind of moving. I didn't, you know, I just didn't know at the time.
Interesting. So Brice, as we're sort of experiencing it from the external perspective, what were your reactions in the moment as you watch her void what ended up being a record amount of votes?
This is a perfectly top 5 moment. I remember because this was Kelly's first time playing again, right? This was her.
Or her first time playing again, I should say.
Yes.
It was quite literally her second chance.
Literally her second chances. And again, as someone that's a pre-merger, Kelly going home early in her first season, and we're not really getting to see the star that I already knew Kelly was, because if your dad's name is Farm Guy 69 on Twitter, then you have to be a star. And Kelly coming back and really dominating this season. And I will never forget that moment. I was on my couch, and I remember I used to think Jeff said, like, will not count, but obviously he was saying doesn't count. But Kelly solidified herself as an icon, in my opinion, watching this, being a viewer home, seeing the connections that she was making, seeing the moves that she was making, and to pull this off is Queen Kelly for the rest of my life.
Yeah. The fact that she could bait all of us into voting for her, you know, I mean, that's the great thing. Like, she played dead. She acted miserable. You know, she really kind of like played it up a little bit. Like, oh, I'm going home. Oh, woe is me. Knowing that the whole time, you know, this was something she kind of orchestrated in a way simply through that.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's been actually some discourse recently, Stephen, amongst your fellow second chancers, I think, on Twitter about, you know, somebody had said that, like, maybe Joe had known but didn't fill the alliance in time. And yet, it culminates in this idea that, you know, every other time you split the vote, it's not necessary. It's more of a contingency plan. And then almost the one time that you don't is the one time when you need to, as the 3 votes of the Witches Coven, if you will, ends up carrying over to take out Andrew Savage. And this was just, it's delightful in so many ways. Like, to your point, Brice, I think we're going to be talking about some moments today that like outright make Survivor legends. And this was that moment, because also remember, this was the idol that Kelly Wentworth found in the very first episode of the season. This was this brand new idol that was hidden at a challenge. To your point, she came in with maybe the most to prove, given the fact that she'd gotten voted out in episode 5, a really, you know, understated edit during her time on Samuel Der Sor. Came out swinging, grabbed an idol, hung on to it long enough, and to your point, Stephen, was able to draw the votes onto her to make the move that she wanted to make. It is such a declarative statement to say, not only to use an idol correctly, but to void, up to that point, the most votes. I think it's still the most votes voided by an idol in Survivor history. Caleb still holds the record, I think, with the Shot in the Dark play, but like, to still be able to successfully pull that off, and also to then continue to make a deep run at it, right? It wasn't like Kelly just went out next time. That was another Kelly that ended up going out in the next vote. So the fact that this gave her a much needed second chance within second chances that she used to really cement her status as one of the biggest players of the season, and, you know, one of the biggest fan favorite players of the 30s. It was just so incredible to witness.
For what it's worth, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it really was. Also, I see, hearing that clip, I don't know who said it, but when Savage got up and they say to him, "At least you made the murder."
Oh, you know that was Abby Maria, yeah.
Maria.
And if you don't remember, the sound effect at the end is him flipping her off on the way out, and
it's
she
blurred.
It's
blurred. Yeah.
Classic. Okay.
I argued the next day, like, hey, Kelly just pulled off this huge move. Let's vote her out now. You know, we got to get rid of her before she goes further with like on the back of this like huge, you know, phenomenal move that she did. Everyone else was like, no, she earned her spot here. Like, let's give her. I was like, this is ridiculous. Let's get rid of her. She's just showing how hard she's playing. But truly, also, what's interesting about this too is like, you know, I think this was still the era when people were kind of sharing what hardware they had. You know, now people don't tell people all the time when they have idols, but this kind of was still back in the day when people were a little more open about it. And I think that was shifting already. But, you know, really remarkable that Kelly could have gone this far without telling anybody about it when she had so much reason to share it, you know, to tell the other witches, to tell like Joe, try to make inroads, because she really was on the outs for a lot of that time. But it's really incredible that she, like, I don't think anybody knew. I mean, Joe told her she was getting votes, but, you know, I don't think anyone knew about her having the idol.
And I think that is something that we doted upon a bit when we talked about Caleb Shot in the Dark play, but is really doubled down here, which is obviously this moment was big for Kelly, but what it really represented for Survivor proper is the utility that something like this can have to completely change your game. Again, not just survive another day, but sometimes surviving another day is all you need to just keep climbing that proverbial ladder until you get to the final 4. It's this idea that ordinarily, in maybe the first 10 seasons of Survivor, Wentworth would be gone right here. Open and shut, 9-3 vote. She's donezo. But she was able to find a way, in a manner of speaking, to be able to accrue the right things, pick the right person to get rid of, play it at the right time. And that's really why this thing got introduced in the first place, right? As far back as Survivor Guatemala in the jungles, where it's something that can completely change the course of your fate as well as the entire fate of a season. And I feel like almost nowhere is that better represented than Kelly Wentworth, who, again, is able to build an entire Survivor legacy off the back of, in my opinion, with no offense to what comes after, essentially this move.
Yeah. And it also makes me think of looking at the newer eras of Survivor. We never see a clean sweep of, hey, we're voting Mike out today, and everyone just voting Mike out. We always see that possibility of an idol. We always see them splitting the votes. And I mean, obviously they were splitting the votes prior to this, but after this, you don't ever just see everyone writing one person's name down. And I think that really kind of changes the course of the strategy and how people go into Survivor. With the knowledge is power idol, everyone always thinks of that and considers that. I really think after this moment, people are like, what if somebody has an idol? Even though there has been no talk of it, we still need to have another target that we can put a name on, because why would y'all just write Kelly's name down?
There were good reasons, okay? Do you want me to? This is not about the reasons why we didn't split the votes, but I will give you those reasons if you need them.
Yeah, so up to this point, again, Kelly Wentworth holds the record for highest number of votes negated by an idol with 9. Let's throw out a bold prediction right now, gentlemen, because as was announced recently on Instagram, Survivor 50 has finished filming. We're not in the know about really a lot of stuff that went on out there. Do you think that record will ever get broken, even if by Survivor 50?
I don't think on Survivor 50. I think it does I don't think it gets broken. I think Kelly will hold this title.
I think to Brice's point, you're not seeing those big pylons. There were reasons, but you're not seeing those big pylons anymore. So it's very unlikely. I mean, I think the last time, I think in 45, they would occasionally do big pylon votes.
So that was the big Caleb thing, right? Was that everyone put their votes on Caleb so that it prompted a revote because all votes were nullified.
Yeah. But I think that, that Drew's idea was, the risk of the shot in the dark is less than the risk of things kind of going wrong. But I mean, for the most part, I do think most votes are split these days.
All right. Well, let's see how split the vote was as we get into number 4. I'll also say, by the way, let's go a little numbers based here, trying to pull back the curtain a smidge, because what I will say is the way the final results bore out, the top 5 moments were considerably in their own sort of tier in terms of finish above the other moments for the number of votes that ended up coming in. So I can reveal an interesting percentage here of, again, the 6,000 people that filled out the survey. They had the choice to pick basically up to 25 moments on the list that they would want to, essentially nominate here or vote for as the greatest moments in Survivor history. Wentworth Will Not Count was on 68.8% of the ballot. 69 said that moment was nice and decided to pick Wentworth Will Not Count in
Just
there.
like the farm guy.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, how fitting is that? It could not go above. It was destined to settle at number 5 because it could not go past 69. Well, let us farm ourselves some guesses here for the number 4 moment in Survivor history. Again, Wentworth Will Not Count was number 5. Brice, that being said, what do you think number 4 is?
I know this has to be on the list because I didn't see it on the 25 prior to this, but it's not I don't know, because I think it's monumental. I think of, what is it? The Black Widow Brigade, when Sari convinced Erik. That has to be, I feel like a huge move, but I also can think of other ones that go before it. So I'm guessing maybe that one.
Okay.
I think that's going to be higher. I think that's top 2. But then I've got Parvati gives up 2 idols, and and a lot of people are going to to me, Parvati gives up 2 idols is probably number 1 up there with Billy Garcia. But then there's the rats and snakes speech. Are people just going to kind of give Rats and Snakes / Richard? Like, is that just going to like be there because it has to be there in the way that people rank Borneo first, because it's Borneo? I might do Rats and Snakes here because
Okay.
I feel like there's going to be, more heat for like the Parvati and Erik moments.
All right. Well, let us put the heat on the number 4 moment in Survivor history and find out what it is.
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
You know what, Jack? I think it would be downright depressing to sit and watch green bananas turn yellow without my debaucherous little villains. So, Sandra, that's for you. Get out of here, for real? And Jeff, I would just like to increase our odds. So, Jerry, that one's for you too. Damn it.
Yes, indeed. Damn it, JT. But we're not saying damn it, as we got to see an outright Survivor legend be made, in my opinion, in the number 4 moment. Steven, your number 1 moment, Parvati's double idol play from Survivor Heroes versus Villains.
I think this is the best strategic moment in the history of the show. Like the fact that she had 2 idols and didn't play either. I mean, ranking is arbitrary and reductive, but for me, it's the best strategic moment in the history of the show. Like the fact that she had 2 idols and didn't play either of them for herself. We had that scene earlier in the episode where Amanda comes to her and says, Parv, play your idol for yourself. Play your idol for yourself. And, yes, you can see how Parvati took from that conversation. They're not going to vote for me. They're trying to flush my idol. Even so, you are playing Heroes versus Villains. You're at the merge, the giant vote. The idea of not holding on to that idol for yourself, of not like, oh, maybe Amanda's just giving me a hint. Maybe Amanda's like saving me here. That is to me so mind-bogglingly good. I don't think I could ever like reach the level of, I've got my 2 idols. I know I'm a target. Just give one away. I'll just give one. Hold on to one for myself. The fact that she gave both away and truly changed, speaking of changing the course, like that changed that season because you've got the merge. It was 5 heroes, 5 villains, and then everything comes down to this vote. And that double idol play totally switches the game.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Phelan wrote it in his ballot when he sent it in to us, and he calls it, to your point, a move that directed the course of the most iconic season ever. The butterfly effect, had it not happened, is wild, because you mentioned it before, Brice, like, without this move, maybe things go a little awry, but, like, there's a very good chance Sandra is not our first 2-time winner in Survivor history.
Absolutely, and it's crazy, because when I think about this moment, don't ask me why, all I remember from this moment is Russell turning to Parvati, and I something like, you got some explaining to do or something.
Yeah,
and I remember Parvati being like, like, I don't know why that sticks in my head when I think about this moment watching the season. But again, I was like 4 at the time this season aired. And I just remember thinking to myself, why is she not playing it for herself? And again, to win big, you have to take big risk. And I think that obviously the gays already love Parvati at this time, but like this cemented her as the queen, such an iconic move that Parvati made during this time. But like, it's just so crazy. I'm thinking about like the aesthetic of when I used to watch these episodes. And this is just, I wasn't prepared for like taking me back to like my basement, and this was on a Thursday night. Like this is when Survivor was on Thursday night. It's like so weird. Like
it was the last season to air on Thursday nights.
I had school. I remember I was like working on a science project. This is like not to do with the moments, but like I was working on a science project. I was like gluing cotton on one of those like boards that like I'll never forget this moment. That's so crazy. But yeah, shout out to Queen Parvati.
No, I mean, and then listen, it's a great week for Parvati. Of course, she recently appeared on The Pride Has Spoken.
Yes.
Check out her new book that is coming out next week as well, which, has included some incredibly eye-opening things about the life that she led that led her to this moment, which was so monumental for so many reasons. Like you said, Steven, like the absolute gall it took, because not even the fact that she had 2 idols on her. And we talked about this with James last time, almost the exact opposite, perhaps took a lesson from James and being like, no, I want to give them away. as soon as possible rather than hold on to them. But the fact that we got into this with JT's letter, the narrative going into the merge was that Parvati was the ringleader of the villains, that she was making Black Widow Brigade 2.0 and was voting all the men out systematically. And poor Russell, he was the last man standing, quite literally. So, of course, he's going to flip to the heroes. And so you would think, especially when she throws the immunity challenge to Danielle, again, absolutely wild for her to do, but maybe it's because, there's a lot of talk in the voting confessionals as well as earlier on the beach of like, oh, Parvati probably has an idol. Like Russell said that she did and that she already used it, but let's see, she might have another one. That they then deflect their votes. They try to go for the Edgardo move and say, let's go for Jerry. And so when Parvati plays the idol on Sandra initially, while Sandra is joyous, so are the heroes, right? Because they thought, okay, she did have an idol and she missed. Great, we can finally get Jerry. And then when she pulls out that second idol and plays it on Jerry, they are crestfallen. And Steven, it probably breaks your heart over and over again to hear JT just say, damn, knowing that probably the writing was on the wall. But it really comes as such an incredible culmination of one of the best pre-merge stretches of all time, really building to this moment.
And like, if she's wrong here, she looks like one of the dumbest survivors ever. I don't know. I mean, like, so that's what's so bold about it is it's not just like in a game, it's on TV. You are making this huge move. You are taking this enormous risk. And like if you're wrong, it really blows up. Like, you're voted out. You look so dumb. And like the fact that she had like the instincts and the savvy to do this is incredible. Speaking of JT getting voted out here, like someone else this is really good for is Stephen Fishbach, because after this, everyone is messaging me like, oh my gosh, Steven, you were the brains of that operation. Like, oh my gosh, what a flub from JT. How great. You are a mastermind. Now, not true, but it was nice to get those messages.
Yeah.
Can you remind me, I can't think that far back. Was Pav the only one that voted for JT, or was it two?
No,
votes for
all the villains voted for
okay,
JT. So basically, it was just voiding all the Jerry votes, and then Russell really rubber stamping the like, yeah, I pantsed you suckers by saying like, oh yeah, and I also was with the villains the entire time. But again, it serves as this sort of like 2-episode ruse that they were able to pull, starting with the letter and oh my god, poor Russell, the victim of this women's alliance, to them being able to. But as you mentioned, Brice, like Russell is not completely in the know here. We talk about someone keeping information from others. This was a big defining moment for Parvati in multiple ways. Not only, again, just the absolute aggression and gamesmanship it takes to be able to read the situation accurately and play the idols properly. Not only is it, for the first time in Survivor history, playing 2 idols at once, let alone on 2 different people, but that second idol surprised not only the heroes, but Russell, one of her closest allies, that after everything happened with the Tyson vote, she finds the idol in the jungle with Danielle and decides, this is something that I'm going to do for myself. And I know certainly at the time, I think following Micronesia, I think there were certainly Parvati fans, but in my opinion, this is when like the legacy of a legend truly catapulted. This is the thing that when Survivor Heroes versus Villains ended and Sandra won for a second time, people in the streets were shouting for a decade plus, Parvati should have won. And, I will correct the record. I talked last time about the letter, how, Parvati had apparently read it out loud, myriad times to anyone who could hear it. That allegedly is not true. I think the only person to claim that story is Sandra. But what is very true is what Parvati is able to pull off in this moment. And it is something that is not only so incredible and game-changing for her own status as a arguable Survivor Mount Rushmore contestant, but obviously is incredibly game-changing for the season proper.
Yeah, I mean, it really did all come down to down to this, and it was just so cool. And how she also like separated her game from Russell's here. I think there was, the problem, misconception or conception that, before this, she was kind of Russell's ally, and here it really showed that she was, very much in control.
Yeah, I'll finish with one comment from Miles McNutt, who does some fantastic work out there on Substack. Be sure to check him out. But I pulled him for his favorite Survivor moments, and he, when talking about Parvati's idol play, brought up, I think, Brice, a really interesting point when we sort of compare this to the way the new era is structured, saying, We complain about too many advantages, but the real problem is that the game has become so chaotic that truly brilliant moves like this one feel too curated. This was all Parvati built on relationships. What do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, I agree to an extent that, like, yeah, there is so much going on that anything can happen at any time, but it's having the relationships, knowing where the votes are going to go, knowing what people want to do, or telling you what to do. I think that absolutely is. I think sometimes I almost hope in season 50 that there are no idols. Like,
did you vote for that?
I did. But I like the simplicity of this, but it really is a mastermind of her knowing what she needed to do, knowing where the votes were going, knowing she's in kind of like, I don't know, the Bermuda Triangle. That don't really make sense, but like she's in the center. And so I agree. And shout out to Queen Parvati. The queen stays the queen.
There we go. All right. We have now officially ascended into the top 3. This is a tough one. Steven, that was your number one moment or number one, strategic moment in Survivor history. So where do we go from here? You mentioned a few beforehand. What do you think the viewers put as number 3?
Okay, so I think, rats and snakes and Erik gives up immunity are going to be top 2. That means I'm just like not thinking of something super obvious. Like, what is the really obvious thing I'm not thinking of? I mean, I'm honestly not feeling too hopeful for my for my Billy Candace moment now that Parvati is giving up 2 idols. I don't think people rated the Billy Candace moment as above Parvati giving up 2 idols.
What were the 2 you just said? Rats and snakes, and what was the other one?
And then Erik giving up immunity with
what you mentioned before with the Black Widow Brigade. Yeah,
like you're, yeah. What am I missing here, Brice?
It has to be, if from the same season, it would have to be Sandra winning twice then. I think the RHAP.
Brice, I hate to inform you that was already on the list.
Oh!
That was number 20.
That's number 20. Yeah. For perfectly teamed, as I'm sure you guys commented at the time. Number 20 for, yeah.
Okay.
What are we missing? There's some obvious thing that we're missing that, like, I'm going to feel like, oh, yeah, obviously that was top 3.
I don't know. Brice, do you have any ideas for what might be number 3?
Listen, I was saying Sandra wins twice. I don't know. Roll the tapes.
Okay, listen, I'll follow your lead here, sir. We're a bit bum puzzled at the moment as to what number 3 is, but I think you'll figure out very quickly what number 3 is. And apologies for the long clip, but I hope you savor every second of it.
I have no questions. I just have statements. Rich, you are very openly arrogant, pompous human being. But I admire your frankness with it. You have worked hard to get where you're at, and you started working hard way before you come to the island. So with my work ethic background, I give that credit to you. But on the other hand, your inability to admit your failures without going into a whiny speech makes you a bit of a loser in life. Kelly, the rafting persona queen, you did get stomped on national TV by a city boy that never swam, let alone been in the woods or a jungle or rode a boat in his life. You sucked on that game. Anyways, I was your friend at the beginning of this, really thinking that you were a true friend. I was willing to be sitting there and put you next to me. At that time, you were sweeter than me. I'm not a very openly nice person. I'm just frank, forward, and tell you it the way it is. Have you sit there next to me and me lose $900,000 just to stomp on somebody like this. But as the game went along and the 2 tribes merged, you lied to me, which showed me what the true person that you are. You're very two-faced and manipulative to get where you are at anywhere in life. That's why you fail all the time.
Interesting.
So at that point of the game, I decided then just to go out with my alliance to my family and just to hold my dignity and values in check, and hoping I hadn't lost too many of them, and play the game just as long as possible and hang in there as long as possible. But Kelly, go back to a couple times Jeff said to you, what goes around comes around. It's here. You will not get my vote. my vote will go to Richard. And I hope that is the one vote that makes you lose the money. If it's not, so be it. I'll shake your hand and I'll go on from here. But if I ever pass you along in life again and you were laying there dying of thirst, I would not give you a drink of water. I would let the vultures take you and do whatever they want with you, with no ill regrets. I plead to the jury tonight to think a little bit about the island that we have been on. This island is pretty much full of only two things: snakes and rats. And in the end of Mother Nature, we have Richard the snake, who knowingly went after prey, and Kelly, who turned into the rat that ran around like the rats do on this island, trying to run from the snake. I feel we owe it to the island's spirits that we have learned to come to know, to let it be in the end the way Mother Nature intended it to be, for the snake to eat the rat.
It was a moment that 51 million people watched 25 years ago on August 23rd. So just shy of its quarter-century birthday, we are celebrating the number 3 moment in Survivor history, Sue's Snakes and Rats speech from the finale of Borneo. Brice, you were losing your freaking mind during the course of that playing.
I forgot that she turned to the jury and was like, let me talk to y'all now. I forgot Sue did that. First of all, the amount of backhanded compliments Sue was delivering in there. And also, maybe a microaggression, but well, damn, what did Jervis do?
I was going to say, you're taking the pot shot at your Philly boy.
You lost to a boy who can't swim, who lives in the city. That's on you. Like, oh my God. I forgot how much Sue ate that down. But also the part that, again, listening back is just giving me so much excitement. First of all, girl, what you mean the alliance to your family? Girl, what? Like, I'm going to stay true to my alliance and my family, and hopefully I have some dignity left. Girl, what dignity is in this speech right now? I'm so confused, Sue. But mind you, I forgot how much Sue ate that, okay? The snake. I'm going to let Mother Nature do what Mother Nature do and give it to the snake. Sue! Oh, my God. Sorry.
Think about this. Do you think maybe the Fox show The Snake was created in lieu of Sue's speech 25 years later?
They owe Sue some royalty checks. I still cannot. I forgot she turned to the jury. What a snake move. And then also it's like, so I was going to bring you, like, first of all, so you telling me, Sue, I was going to lose anyway, right? But I was going to be kind and bring you with me so that you could lose to me. Now you're going to get eaten by the rat. I still cannot believe she turned to that jury. I forgot about that. Okay, sorry. Oh, my God.
I was going to say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, but that's what we're doing in this
4, 3,
countdown. That's what I've been doing for 5 weeks, baby.
And you can just imagine Sue writing it right at Ponderosa. She's got her glasses on.
No, I mean,
what's the metaphor?
I was reading Mark Burnett's book, actually, to see if he talked about it. He did say that Sue spent the entire day writing and rehearsing the speech over and over again.
Nailed it. No ums, no uhs, just freaking, killer after killer. Yeah. And what's crazy, like, this sets, I feel like, the tone for what the whole series is. When Survivor comes on, right, famously, it's initially a show about surviving, and this whole other thing of alliances and strategy, like, that's this like emergent gameplay that happens on top of this show about surviving. And I think here, if Sue votes for Kelly and gives Kelly the win, then suddenly it's like a totally different show. It's like these alliances and these schemers, like, that's been discarded, and we are rafting strong. But now it's
Persona
like
Queen.
Yeah, and like and it's just like and then Kelly Wigglesworth becomes the face of the franchise. You know, and by giving it to Richard, by saying, you know, it's all about the snakes, then the show becomes about the snakes.
Yeah, it also just makes you think about like, you were nice to me, you lied to me, and
Right.
it makes me think about the morals of when people go out there for Survivor and final speeches. People are like, yeah, I absolutely had to lie to you. It was a part of my game. It just makes me think that this was season 1, right? So it's like when people are lying to people, they're lying to people, right? Because there's nothing before it. There's nothing. So people are like, it just makes this speech so it hits so much differently, because I'm like, girl, that's the point of the game. Like, you're out here to lie for $1 million, but clearly season 1, it was about morals. It was about dignity. And when you give that all up, I'm going with my alliance to my family. I have to use that in one of my emails to my supervisors. Okay.
Exactly. Use that Corinne tone. Yeah. So here's the thing, because as you mentioned, Brice, like, this was trying to sort of put in the ground floor of a building in Survivor Borneo. And so you get a lot of really disparate philosophies as to how to play. You had an entire tribe of the game in Pagong be like, we can't vote on alliances. That's just not the way to play. And Tagi's like, bet. Doesn't matter if it's fair or not fair. This is how it's going to happen. Steven, you talked about how Parvati playing both idols was your favorite moment in Survivor history. This is mine. This will always be mine. It takes a lot to shuffle out, you know, Survivor Pearl Islands as my favorite Survivor season and Snake as my favorite moment. Brice, I have a memory like you equated earlier of this. I was sitting in my basement with my mom and my aunt and my sister. I had just celebrated my 11th birthday less than a week prior. And even at that age, where I, you know, didn't have a lot of accessibility as to a lot of topics that were being brought up over the course of Survivor Borneo, I would not be educated to that until much later in my life. It still profoundly affected me and made me fall in love with reality television. I had watched this season up to this point, and I jumped in about halfway through after hearing a lot of scuttlebutt as to what it possibly was. But I don't think I truly got what reality TV was until this moment. And I would wager, yes, Steven, I could, you know, I might agree or disagree with the statement of like, does the franchise survive if Kelly wins over Richard? But the franchise certainly does not survive without this moment. And I would wager a guess as to say, yes, we have had series like The Real World come prior to Survivor, but given how much of a smash success Survivor was, I do not think without this moment, any of us would be here. Obviously, from a Survivor perspective, perhaps, but also from like, this cemented to people the idea of what unscripted TV could do. This concept of you don't need to hire actors. You don't need to hire writers. You just need a rage-fueled truck driver from the Midwest to stand in front of two emaciated people and tell them off until the cows came home. It created this idea that human drama can instinctually be created from within rather than external people coming in and telling them how to produce things. And it also showcased how this was raw. As prepared as Sue's statement might have been, these were emotions that were clearly still bubbling after she was betrayed by her best friend in the game 2 days earlier. As she says, a $900,000 move from her perspective. It showcased that reality TV can capture us at our core, at our essence, at our most hateful and spiteful, yet, incredibly well vocalized and well written. It really shone a spotlight on what we can be as people. And I think it is this moment witnessed by 50 plus million people that had everyone from executives to hosts to future players to especially fans saying, this thing is here to stay.
I couldn't agree more. 2 things I want to add on. One, I just want to give a shout out to how big Jeff's shirt is, right? It tells you the time, right? Like,
Nick, you do go like, it's a look on Jeff's fit here.
Yes. Is that like, because that is like kind of like the dresses that the ladies wear now, but also it is an era, 2000s, we were wearing big shirts. And then my one correction that I wanted to give Sue at the end was that, like, if Sue were black And she said everything that she said at the end when she was like, if I were to walk by you and you were thirsty, I wouldn't even give you water. Now, mind you, when my mom used to be mad at us and yell at us, she would say a similar phrase, but she would be like, and I would walk by you and I wouldn't even spit on you. I wish she would have said spit because that would have just been so much more diabolical. But yes, I think I've never really rated one of my top Survivor moments, Mike, but I think I'm with you. I think this is my top Survivor moment ever. Like the way the visuals that came back to me hearing this, that has never happened to me before. That was a very powerful moment. Shout out to Sue. Okay. I forgot she was a truck driver. And you know when she be on them trucks, she be cussing people. Beep, get over. Okay, sorry.
You know what? I love this moment, but it never it didn't have that impact on me that it clearly did on you, Mike, and on America. I agree. Top 3 moment in Survivor history, absolutely. But just on my personal, when Richard steps down off the thing, to me that was wow, this is Survivor. On the final immunity challenge, that's so cool. Look at this next level thinking about this problem in front of you. And then everyone's ranting. Okay, let's move on to the interesting stuff. But I get it. It's a cool moment, but it wasn't for me this wow moment.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is Survivor in its early era as well is not meta whatsoever. They very rarely refer to previous seasons, except for obviously returning seasons like All Stars. There is one exception. The very next season, at the very first Ogakor Tribal Council, episode 2, you have Marilyn Mad Dog Hershey herself vote for Cal and say, if you were ever in the desert dying of thirst, we would all give you a drink of water. You have at the Marquesas reunion, Rosie O'Donnell give out the first ever and really only iteration of the Sue Hawk Memorial Award for Bitter Juror. The term Bitter Juror really stems from this. And I think also when we started making the shift in season 34 to less of the individual jury statements and more so the kind of general group discussion, I think a lot of people felt like we're depriving ourselves of the opportunity for moments like this. I don't know if I 100% agree with them, but if you're looking for an argument for give everyone their own individual time, this is absolute leader in the clubhouse there.
But I also love that statement because I don't know if you two know how I feel. I hate the term bitter juror, right? It kind of always annoys me because I feel like it is a part of the game, right? And yeah, you do me wrong. You have to deal with the consequences of how I might be on the jury. Not that I'm bitter. You did me wrong. And to Sue's credit, I feel like she displays and explains the thought process here very clearly. You were nicer than me. Up into the point you lied. And I think that again changes how and why when people vote people out, putting them on the jury, considering that of how they might feel, what they might do. So again, shout out to Sue for the first alleged bitter jury, but it's should she have made that move? I mean, obviously Survivor wouldn't be what it is today, but I mean, it just begs the thought to when you are playing the game and putting people on the jury, it matters. Your relationship with them matters. And if you are close, like how Sue thought she was with Wiggles, it really does matter.
I'm with you. I'm with you. If you do something, you have to earn the votes. You're not owed the votes.
And what's interesting is if we talk about the sliding doors, Steven, if Sue does give that vote to Kelly, Kelly isn't on second chances with you.
Wow,
Kelly
it's Richard. It's Richard.
It's Richard, but you can also say Kelly Wentworth is not called Wentworth. Kelly will not count. Doesn't have as much of a ring to it. So talk about a pebble dropping in a lake and ripples there out.
It would be a top 20 moment instead of the number 5 moment. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, who would have thought the number 3 moment would incidentally also cause the number 5 moment to happen in a manner of speaking. Going back to the numbers for a second, I realized that we didn't do Parvati's double idol play. That got 71.3% of the ballots. And the Snakes and Rats speech got an even 75% of the votes. So 3/4 of the ballots that were submitted had this moment on it.
Who's the quarter of people who are like, nah, it's Jesse betrays Cody?
You never know. Listen, everyone comes to the show at a different time, in a different state, valuing different things. That's what makes this experiment so much fun.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we move on from there? And the answer is...
I think I know. I actually think I've got it.
Okay. Steven has cracked the code.
I think I've got it, Brice. And this was the reason I was having trouble with this moment was because this was, and I'm excited to talk about this if I'm right. Because like this was one that like I never got. Everyone's like, this is a huge moment. And I was like, are you sure? Are you sure that's a huge moment? The dead grandma line.
What do you think, Brice?
That is a huge moment. It's weird because I don't look at that from like a survivor standpoint.
Yeah.
I look at that the era that I was in when I used to walk to the store and I would get magazines. Like I would get like People magazine, I would get like Us Weekly, and that is a huge cultural moment for me because I don't think I necessarily watched that season, but baby, I read about it. It was in the tabloids. So that is a very important pop culture moment for me. So I am with you, Steven. That's a huge moment. But again, maybe not from the survivor standpoint. For me, just having like the magazines and walking home from school, reading about like the grandmom that is not dead. So I forgot about that. So yeah, that has to be up here.
All right. So the question is it number 2 in your opinion? Or is there another one that takes its place?
Because there has to be the Erik one. But I would vote that has to be number 1 because that, even though I just said my number 1 moment in this podcast, that has been my number 1 moment. So I'm going to go with Steven and say that it would probably be the grandmom.
And I think the Erik one too is like more top of mind for everybody. Like, I feel like that, especially like now, feels more part of the firmament, you know, because those players are like still around, you know, like we still see Erik. He's got a memoir coming out. We still see, you know, like Parvati obviously still around, Cerie's still around, you know, in the way that Johnny obviously a huge part of the show and its history, but it's not like here anymore. I mean, he's here. He's here.
He
but
died,
he's not, dude. This is how, he's like, you know, but he's not like, you know, he's not like coming back, you know, he's not on, you know, he's in House of Villains, but he's not, you know, he's not like part of Survivor. So
see, okay. So now that you just said that though, I do think though, I could see being the Johnny grandmom the number 1 moment because I think it was huge. I think that it transcended Survivor. I think the Erik moment,
why?
Because he lied. Like again, that's when Survivor was. Like my grandmom, my literal grandmom was talking about that. Like there was discussion. I remember discussion in my household about that moment. And so again, I'm thinking that some of the people that were polling are older Survivor fans, newer Survivor fans. I think that everyone knows that moment. And although I love Cerie and I want Cerie's moment to be number 1, I think the Johnny moment might be the number 1 moment. But all right, I'm gonna shut up and close my eyes.
We should find out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. Here we go. The number 2 moment in Survivor history.
I can't wait to meet this guy.
Oh, God. Oh.
Final 7.
Oh, dude, how's good? Huh? How's good? She died, dude. Did you get the letter?
John, you went from really happy to really sad.
It was either going to be my buddy or my grandmother coming, and my grandmother's not here for a reason.
What happened?
She's not around. So.
Sorry for that news. I'm sure everybody here is sorry.
I don't know. I can hope to win this and get some more information.
For you guys, you generously gave up a chance to spend time with your loved ones so that John could get a little more information about his grandma. So we're going to give him an opportunity to do that.
That was a brilliant performance, sir. Like that? Yeah, thank you. Did you like mine? I couldn't cry. I tried. I brought on a couple tears for you. It was sweat. My grandmother's sitting home watching Jerry Springer right now. So there's my autograph right in the center. There it is, the snake. This is a game for $1 million. I have one chance in my life at this. You should take every single advantage possible. If you don't, you're a fool. The fake dead grandmother could easily go down as the dirtiest thing ever to be done in this game.
That remains to be seen, but it is at least the number 2 moment in Survivor history. Right on the money, Stephen Fishbach. Johnny Fairplay's dead grandma lie. Maybe if these people had been listening more closely and heard that Johnny Fairplay's friend came out and revealed this devastating news by saying, quote, "She died, dude," they would have been more onto the ruse that Thunder D was setting up.
But Sandra was on. Sandra wasn't having
Fairplay's
any of it.
buddy, yeah. She wanted to pick him to go immediately. And then you have Lil being like, his grandmother died, Sandra. That's really the alpha and the omega of reactions to this game-changing piece of news. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely hear the arguments from both of your perspectives as to, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, was this a major deal? You know, it maybe buys Johnny Fairplay some goodwill. It certainly gets him on the reward. Everyone basically throws the challenge so that John gets a moment at camp with Thunder D. But this is much, much more about the impact it had in reality TV history.
I think that's what I'm missing. Like, I was like a day one Survivor viewer. And then I think on day like season 2, about halfway through, you know, so let's say day 50, I kind of like lost touch with the show until much later, season 18. So like, I feel like I wasn't part of the cultural conversation when this was happening and seeing, you know, how this affected everything beyond the show.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of these moments, Brice, that like was kind of an elevator pitch for Survivor. I mean, I'll read a really well-written statement by Gordon Holmes about this. He says, anticipating a loved one's challenge during Survivor Pearl Islands, Fairplay prearranged with his friend Thunder D to deliver the false news that his grandmother had passed away. The maneuver was designed to garner sympathy from the other contestants. Now, do me a favor. Run out, find someone who knows nothing about Survivor, then tell them about Fairplay's dead grandma stratagem. Okay, what was their reaction? Odds are they think he's a genius or a monster. And both answers are pretty much correct. Whether you love him or you hate him, you have to admit that Fairplay's sneaky maneuver changed Survivor forever. The game doesn't just exist on an island somewhere tropical. It exists weeks before the first buff is handed out. Thoughts about that, Brice?
Yeah, I mean, to have the foresight, again, say what you want about Johnny Fairplay. He a lot of different things. Your face might be on a shirt that he is selling. But to have the foresight for him to know, like, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to make it this far. I'm going to prearrange that. Even listening back, the guy, what's his name? Big Thunder D?
Thunder D, yeah.
Oh, Thunder. Oh, wonder.
Is he the freakiest freak of Survivor Pearl Islands, even though he shows up for like 15 minutes?
It makes me curious as to why they call him Thunder D, but I'm going to pass on that. But like him even going out there and being like, did you get the letter? Like, I was like, oh, like that, like, okay, shout out to you, Thunder D. But yeah, it is a master. That's a master class. Like, he really did execute that well. Again, like, is it kind of sleazy? Is it dirty down? I mean, again, all of the things of a Johnny Fairplay. But I have to say, like, going on a Bryson win, you know, we've been on tour for the last like 5 years, going to different cities. Johnny has come with us to some of the stops. I have to say, like, he's like, people really lose their ish for a Johnny Fairplay. Like, I remember him being on like Jay Leno, him doing all of the circus. Like, this was a huge move for Survivor. Whether you love it or hate it, people can always talk about this dead grandma move. And like, yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Like, it makes Johnny into this franchise level villain, you know, in a way where, I mean, if you actually look at Johnny's game, it's like a very smart, strategic, somewhat like, you know, good. It's a good, smart, strategic game.
Yeah.
But then it's these moments that, like, why is like Johnny Fairplay? Why was he this huge villain? It is this stuff that like takes him like kind of like above any one season and makes him like one of the biggest villains of the whole franchise. And like, I mean, I totally get it. Like, I get like why, you know, this scheme of planning this in advance, you know, how like somewhat dark it is, right? Like, say, like claiming on television that a family member has died and using that to your advantage for food, you know, like not even like to win the game. It's not like he's like at the finale.
I mean, he did. I at least try to incorporate it, right? He made a couple of promises on grandma's grave to go
Oh,
further into the
yeah.
game.
Right. Exactly. And it just like shows the level that someone is willing to take it, how, in the way that we were talking about, like a lie in season 1 is this prompt for this huge one. You lied to me. Like, how dare you lie? Like what the stakes are, not just of this show, but of like reality television broadly. Suddenly you're saying like, I'm lying on my relatives' lives. It shows kind of like how extreme, like morally it's got. And it is interesting. Like, I do think part of maybe why it didn't cut so deep for me is like, I think I was playing when the game had lost a lot of that moral kind of sense that really animated those first few seasons.
Well, yeah. And
so probably because of this moment.
Well, that's the thing that's so interesting is that like you get a moment like Survivor China where Todd's sister comes out and tragically tells him that she had a miscarriage. And Courtney's like, is there a Johnny Fairplay story going on here? Like, it's almost like the knowledge is power and that this needed to happen once where now if any piece of personal news gets into the game, people are like, okay, but are you milking this at all? And it's a wild question. I mean, this is an objectively wild thing, especially all the way back in 2003, that this guy comes into the game with a premeditated plan to fake a family member's death to earn sympathy to win the game. It's so interesting to compare this to the Borneo one because Borneo was a moment that, again, felt like it was born out of this natural emotional manifestation of I'm feeling this in the moment. I'm bubbling with words. I have to say something. This was much more inorganic. And I think what's really interesting is the way that future players take a look at both moments. And I wouldn't necessarily say take the wrong lessons, but I do think that Johnny Fairplay was one of the first players to like simultaneously be his own producer, right? This is a guy that came from the world of wrestling. He knew, okay, I want to win the game, but also I want to make good TV. And I think there's been a lot of comments throughout 25 years of Survivor of certain players just hamming it up for the cameras. They're not playing the game. And you can look at Johnny Fairplay and to a certain extent, Sue Hawk, who does make a big grandstanding gesture at Final Tribal Council and kind of look at the DNA of some of the players moving forward who realize like, oh yeah, this is a TV show. I can just make a bunch of really entertaining stuff. Gameplay be damned.
You see a lot in the new era, or you will talk to some of the new era players where they feel like some of the players, like when they watch it back, you realize like they're actually playing for the viewers at home, right? They're actually making, and so it's so interesting when you think about this back in 2003. And again, it's the evolution of the show. The show had just aired in 2000. $1 million in 2003, it's a lot of money, especially from some people from a small town, right? And so the more popular it is, you'll get people like this. And while I don't really love the sentiment of it, I actually really do love the gameplay of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, before Pearl Islands, there was no returnee season yet, right?
Nope. All Stars was the first returning season, yeah.
It begs the question, now this might be a stretch, but listen, I'm with a know-it-all in a bloom, so maybe y'all can help me. But I wonder, does this even maybe, and let's be real, when we talk about returnee seasons, the pre-alliances, the people reaching out to, I wonder if any of this kind of was born from that, the fact that this man like knew that if he got this far somebody could come home. It just makes me think about the potential evolution. And we've heard like the pre-gaming, the alliances, and it's like not Johnny Fairplay was out here pre-gaming with himself. Like that it's diabolical, but it really is revolutionary. And like love or hate Johnny Fairplay, like I really do feel like his I don't know, but his placement in this Survivor realm is like it's deserved, whether you think it's a good deserving or a bad deserving, but like he definitely carved out his own space in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, even just focusing outside of the returning stuff, Steven, you have Russell Hantz come into Survivor Samoa and on the first night lie about losing his dog in Hurricane Katrina. I would imagine that does not happen without what Johnny Fairplay does here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're exactly right. I mean, it shows people thinking about you know, and just like to Brice's point, like thinking about the structure of the game and like ways like they can take advantage of it from outside of that then becomes like so important, you know, as the game goes on. Russell too, by the way, someone who alleged, I mean, I think like one of the people from his starting tribe told me, you know, he would be like, okay, make sure your hair looks good because this is going to be a big moment, you know, like, so really thinking about like what, you know, the cameras and, you know, the things that we're going to make TV.
Yeah, and we should also mention, unfortunately, earlier this year, life imitated art, as Johnny Fairplay's grandmother actually did pass away this time around. I hope wherever she is watching Jerry Springer out the wazoo. But again, you talk about cementing the legacy, Brice. I mean, he would not have come back. You could argue he wouldn't have come back for Fans versus Favorites. Certainly would have not come back for House of Villains. Like, again, we keep talking about legacy-defining moments for a lot of these Survivor players in this particular batch. And this is another one. As you mentioned before, Johnny Fairplay has not been back on our screens on Survivor since season 16. But obviously the moment still holds up and the character still holds up because, again, this man manufactured an entire ruse and brought his own person outside of the game in on it to bamboozle everyone that was left.
Is that considered insurance fraud? Some people do that.
It did not ensure his place in the final two. That is for sure. All right. We have reached the number one moment. Listen, I imagine you guys have kind of circled the drain and figured out what it was, but do you want to put a formal stamp on what you think the top moment in Survivor history was as voted on by the fans?
It has to be the moment that is my top moment before this podcast. It has to be, I forget the name of the season, but when Sari convinces him to give up his idol, not his idol, but his immunity necklace. That has to be that moment because that is the top moment. My top moment before that is a stick. A effing stick like that. It has to be that moment. Would you concur, Steven?
I mean, I'm still holding out hope for Billy Candace, but like nowhere in the top 25 people. Like that's crazy. What a huge moment. Anyway, however, yeah, I mean, definitely, it's in Micronesia, final 5, right? When Sari talks, and the Black Widow Brigade talk Erik into giving up his immunity to earn kudos.
All right. It was all about the final 5, but didn't make the top 5. Here, at long last, is the number one greatest moment in Survivor history.
Sucks that he won. God. If he didn't have that necklace, he'd be gone.
I wonder if he was giving that his necklace. Probably not, huh?
What? He would give you his necklace.
You think you could talk him into giving you the necklace?
That worth your magic. You can convince him to give it to you.
Why would it benefit him giving me the necklace?
They will convince. I'll convince the jury not to. They'll know everything you've done. They're not going to vote for you anyways. Everyone is mad at you at this point. This is one way you can redeem yourself. This is going to go off.
Matt, tell him that if he were to give you the necklace, that would redeem him, and we would vote for Amanda.
Who would fall for that?
This is where it gets funny and tricky. You give me your necklace.
I'm not even going to consider that.
Erik, you have the individual immunity necklace. As always, you can give it up to somebody if you choose to. Otherwise, it is yours and you are safe tonight.
This is a very tough decision for me for a lot of reasons. As a competitor, I've always said, keep your fate in your own hands. But there's so many things weighing on my mind. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past couple days. And I know that actions do speak louder than words. I want to give individual immunity to Natalie.
I don't even know what to say, but thank you.
My mother always told me, you may not be able to beat him with these all the time, but you can always beat him with this. Sorry.
You're crazy. You officially go down as the dumbest survivor ever in the history of Survivor ever.
13th person voted out and the 6th member of our jury. Erik. That's 3. That's enough. Need to bring me your torch.
You guys drive me crazy.
I've lost my ring as dumbest survivor ever.
I should have known better.
Erik, the tribe has spoken. I think that is what you call a life lesson.
Call it a life lesson, call it the dumbest move in Survivor history, but it is the greatest move and moment in 25 years of Survivor. Indeed, Erik gives up individual immunity in Survivor Micronesia.
Mike, you were getting a little verklempt over there. I feel like you look emotional.
I mean, listen, it's a massive moment. It's one of these things where, again, I can remember exactly where I was in my college dorm, just watching how unbelievable this was. I mean, you hear it in the initial parts of that clip. These women are just like throwing out any idea at this point. We've all been in that meeting, right? Of like, come on, no bad ideas. Well, we could try to convince Erik, the person who needed individual immunity to survive, to give up individual immunity. No, that's way too stupid. Sorry, there are bad ideas. No one would ever fall for that. And somehow he fell for it. And it leads to a devastating and humiliating outcome for Erik, but a celebratory moment for the other 4 players and for the franchise. I will start off this discussion by reading a quote from the one, the only Dalton Ross, who wrote an entire oral history of this sequence, talking with all 5 players, which I very much encourage people to check out on Entertainment Weekly. He says that this was, according to him, the franchise's best moment ever. So, of course, it's his number 1. The best Survivor seasons combine both stellar and terrible gameplay at the same time. And you won't get more of either than in this one singular and positively shocking move. Showing all the reactions of the Black Widow Brigade while voting was the chef's kiss of a perfect Survivor scene. Brice, what are your thoughts?
Love it. I think when we talk about like in Borneo with Sue, and we even talk about Johnny Fairplay, I feel like they're both kind of rooted in a little like, but here, right, this is the pinnacle of Survivor. It's literally like throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. Without this, there would be no Operation Italy, right? Like, because I think that it's a similar, like, this would never work. But one thing I do want to ask y'all, that I always, on Survivor News, that I recap Survivor with Wendell and Jack Atkins, I always talk about this. When you have the immunity necklace, it's interesting that Jeff does not say that line anymore. You saw how Jeff said to Erik, do you want to give that up, right? That is no longer a thing. And so I'm always so curious about, what are the rules of the immunity necklace? When can you give it up? Do you have to announce it? So that has always sparked such a debate for me. But again, I don't care what anyone says. This plan made me know that Cirie Fields was my godmother, right? Like, she was the nail, the hammer, and the wood in this, right? Like, she offered it to someone else to kind of see if it could make it happen, but she ultimately had to go in there and give Erik, hey, what you think? Like, no, I actually think it would, like, you know, it really showed the mastermind of Erik. And it is just crazy because also, I guess even listening back to the audio, there's something about listening to the audio, right? Listening to podcasts. And I don't think I've ever had empathy for Erik, right? I think I've always looked at it as like such a like, oh my God, this is crazy. I don't think I ever really was like, oh, damn, Erik. And then it makes me think, Erik, did you look, if I remember correctly, because I haven't seen this in, I don't know, 5 years. If I remember correctly, when Jeff asked him that question, and again, it could be editing, I remember the jewelry. I remember people being like, what are you?
James is openly laughing at Erik. But part of the reason why he makes the move is because he had been convinced up to that point, even if you get to the end, the jury doesn't respect you. The jury isn't going to vote for you. So I could imagine, Steven, from his skewed perspective, he's thinking like, oh, good, they're reacting. That's just what I want them to do with this, you know, Hail Mary I'm tossing.
Well, and that's what's so amazing. Like, I feel like this is such a human moment, you know, and I think that's what's so cool about it. It is like this brilliant strategic moment. But like, it's also from like what is so powerful about Survivor, and the parts of Survivor I love best are, other than Canada's ability, are when those like huge strategic moments combine with the human moments. And it is like about like what is going on in Erik's head. It's like, this is a really young guy, early 20s, right? Like 22 or something at the time, where he, and you're surrounded by players, you're on day 36, 30, around, super, like his body is weak, his mind is like spinning, and the tension between the strategy of the game and the emotion of the game and the morals, and you don't know what other people are thinking, and you feel judged, and you're doing things that are really hard, and again, like I do think that has dissipated a little bit in contemporary Survivor, but certainly back then, I'm lying to people's faces all the time. I'm voting them out and breaking their hearts. Like, that's hard. That's like emotionally hard on anybody. And especially like this young, very sweet guy. And Erik is an extremely like sweet, gentle human. So to be like put into this position of continually having to do these like morally very difficult things in order to advance yourself in a game, like it's no wonder that his head is spinning. And then you have these people like deliberately kind of like spinning it further, and it's no surprise. I mean, you can, maybe not no surprise. It's still obviously not a great move. And Erik himself, has said, like, I don't know why I did it. Like, I'm trying to, like, I keep going back to that, trying to like figure out why I did it. But you can sort of understand kind of how terrible decision-making happens in the context of this very emotional, morally complex game.
Yeah, and especially because there were personal elements loaded up into it. Like, obviously, this is lauded as an incredible strategic maneuver, and it is. I think a lot of people, I'm glad you mentioned Operation Italy before, Brice, because a lot of people have called this, like, the Survivor heist movie, where everyone had their role to play, right? Like, Natalie was the bait. She was the one that was trying to convince Erik to give the necklace to her. Cirie was kind of the fulcrum, saying, okay, I'll vote for Amanda, but only if you give Natalie immunity. And then you have Amanda and Parvati being sort of like the bad cop, less bad cop of like really putting the pressure on Erik, being like, oh, you disappointed us. Look at what the jury's reacting to. You're not going to win. And so everyone had to fit their very certain role, Voltron style, to really assemble this Captain Planet of, a maneuver here. And I apologize for mixing my metaphors there, but it's because, again, it was baked into relationships at this point, only because these people had very specific relationships with Erik. They were able to kind of exploit those personal elements when they needed it most. And that is Survivor gameplay in a nutshell. It's said all the time that the social game is accumulating capital. The strategic game is spending that capital. And we see that here where Natalie's like, hey, we're the only two fans left. Let's work together. So Ray's like, Erik, remember when we were working together, before the merge? I want to work with you. Amanda's like, Erik, we had a good thing going. Why didn't you take me on reward? It really was just the perfect sequence of events to add up to a moment that I think if you wrote fan fiction about it, it would not be believed. This is truly a wild moment. It has happened since. Brandon Hance did give up individual immunity and was voted out in the same round.
Also at the final five, right?
Yeah, at the final five too. But clearly this is something that has been referenced many, many more times. It shows up on Ghost Island. It shows up basically any sort of montage you get. I ask players in the preseason what their favorite moment in Survivor history is. This one shows up many, many times, unfortunately, to Erik's chagrin, because, Brice, it really is larger than life.
I can't believe it happened. Like, it's just so... you won immunity, and you probably could have went on an immunity run.
The final puzzle he solves to win is guaranteed Final Four. Yeah. That was the final word puzzle he had to solve.
And he gave it away. But it's crazy. But again, love Erik. And I think this also kind of sort of reminds me of, I forget, it's in the 40s with Xander, right? Where Xander, he got to the end and he made that deal with Erica. And he took her, but it's like, I don't know if that was the best decision for you, Xander. But again, we see this time and time again. But it is truly what Survivor is. I remember the time, the place. I remember the sneakers. I will never forget.
You remember those sneakers? Because Erik, after he gets voted out, just
doesn't he run?
Yeah, he just runs. He does not look back because he is understandably humiliated and completely thrown for a loop. He is shocked as the votes come in. I mean, let's talk about also the unconventionality of the editing as well. Almost always up to this point, many votes were kept in the dark. We saw maybe a couple, but we largely want the intrigue of you never know who's going to be voted out. This is one of the very rare exceptions. We just heard 4 out of the 5 voting confessionals. They showed every single one because all the women were reacting in real time. Oh my God, I can't believe that worked. Can you believe this shit? Amanda's was literally her standing there with the ballot, like lost for words. They literally fade out before she could say anything because she is just so stunned that this gambit ended up going through. It's clear the show in the moment knew that this was an incredibly special moment. And, you know, over almost 2 decades later, it ends up standing tall as the #1 moment in Survivor history.
And I think, like, just in terms of like the dumbest Survivor ever, I think Brandon Hansen's that move was like, because the first time you do it, it's dumb. But if you do it after it's already happened, that's
Clock it.
dumber. Yeah.
Clock it.
So that is like a priori, that is like a dumber move. But anyway, like, yeah. And you know, what's amazing is just, I don't know. I mean, that they had they tried, like they went with it. And it does seem like Erik might have won. You know, you can see Erik going on an immunity run here. You can see the underdog getting the jury votes here, you know, depending on who he's up against, obviously, in the circumstances of it. So it really is sort of a game losing move for Erik. But I mean, just like the fact that they were like, you know what, let's try. Let's do this. Like, why not at least try to convince him to do this thing? Because, you know, and to Brice's point, they did always say, you know, the immunity necklace, you know, would anyone like to give it up? And they cut that. I must have obviously been, they cut it after the Brandon Hance thing. I mean, maybe immediately after the Brandon Hance thing. I don't remember exactly, because they were like, we can't, this is done. But it was always kind of seen. That's the other thing. Like, it was always seen as a tool for negotiation. Like, oh, is that going to move? And it had moved before, right? I think people.
Jenna Maraska had given it to Heidi, and she did not get voted out. So there was past precedent for surviving the vote if you gave up immunity.
Right. I thought it was Amazon. Yeah. Like, where, like, you know, there was some strategy of like, oh, I could put it on the target, and then, you know, they're not gonna be able to change the target to me. So like there was like some kind of sense that like this was a tool you could use in the game. To your point, like Jeff asks it every single time. So obviously it's something that could happen. And of course everyone's like, no, I would never. But you know, it's like it's out there as like a possible thing that could happen in this universe in a way that it's not anymore.
Yeah. I also think it's such a powerful movement because prior to this, Survivor has been a male-dominated game. We've had so many men winners. We've had so many strong men alliances that, you know, I think at this point in time, it really was a win for the ladies, for the women.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that photo of the 4 of them, the Black Widow Brigade, smiling in celebration of what they did, is like one of the most used photos on the Survivor internet nowadays.
And in terms of the go ahead.
No,
I'm just in terms of the legacy, you know, it's something we're always coming back to here, you know, to Brice's point, like this is the moment for a lot of, I mean, obviously Parvati's got her double idol thing, but in terms of like, you know, Parvati's a part of this, you know, Serena's a part of this. You know, people talk about it with Natalie. Just like it is a defining moment for all of those people's legacies, and something that, you know, however many seasons later, people are still like, well, remember the Black Widow Brigade, you know, like guys are like, those ladies could team up and do it to us again.
And that's the thing, is that it makes sense for many reasons as to why this is the #1 moment. Not only, again, the elements that have you look at an unscripted show and say, surely this has to be scripted out. It can't work out in this direction. Or the fact that we feature, you know, as Dalton sort of talks about, like the zenith and the nadir of the Survivor emotional mindset of like these women on cloud 9 and Erik just absolutely, you know, humiliated, full of shame and surprise at what he was duped into doing. But at the same time, it also then cements this as one of the greatest alliances in Survivor history, because they pull off one of the most improbable moves in Survivor history. And it would not have happened if each one of them did not play their part. And we have talked about many duos, you know, present company included, and many different alliances that have been able to be so incredibly successful. But it's tough to find alliances that can pull off things as epic and as full of much panache as what the Black Widow Brigade did here.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think you're good.
No,
to your point, like I do think part of it is the fact that it's coming from multiple sources. You know, having been a part of like one of those alliances, like, you know, if you've got 2 people saying something to somebody, you know, that person is more likely to believe it, you know, especially on Survivor where like everyone's working at cross purposes. Oh, these 2 people are saying the same thing. Wow. the fact that he's getting it from 4 different sources is, I think, has got to be kind of a part of why he goes along with it.
We saw it in season 48 with Camilla and Kyle with the Joe thing, right? Like, imagine that, but with 3 more people. Like, how complicated, and it's crazy to see like it imitate itself again and again and again. But again, I also think that watching this move again at this point, Survivor was like, you gotta be strong, you gotta beat these challenges. And again, here people are using their social capital, using their social skills that aren't about doing puzzles, aren't about how long can you run, how fast can you swim. It's like just the simplicity of a mind game. And I think that also kind of changes the type of players that apply and that we see moving forward in the season, which is why Sari is just a legend and a queen to this show.
And will be appearing on a 6th season coming up, perhaps due in part to this move. We have some Black Widow Brigade representation on season 50, luckily enough, as it should, considering, again, how massive this move was. I will say, with our top 2 moments, it was pretty close. I would say less than 100 votes separated the number 1 and number 2 moments. There's a bit of a jump up from there. Snakes and Rats came in about 500 votes less than Dead Grandma, but Dead Grandma got a little over 82% of the vote, and Erik Giving Up Immunity got a little over 84%.
Who are these 16% of people who are like, nah, no,
Steven?
Who are you?
Erica just pulled everybody from Michigan to please, submit your vote to anything but this. Just leave that off the ballot. I don't care if you vote for anything else. Just leave that one off. So do not rank Erik Gives Up Immunity. So here is our top 25 moments in Survivor history. I guess we'll, do a quick little roundup here. I'll go very quickly through the round robin. Jesse betrays Cody, number 25. Rupert steals the shoes, number 24. Number 23, Coach's trip to Exile Island. Number 22, Caleb shot in the dark hits. 21, Cerise's 3-2-1 vote. Number 20, or top 5 if you're Brice Izyah, Sandra wins twice. Number 19, Scoopin' falls in the fire. 18, Tony's Spy Shack. 17, Advantage Geddon. 16, Heidi and Jenna strip for chocolate and a peanut butter. Number 15, Stephanie becomes a tribe of 1. Number 14, Boston Rob proposes to Amber. 13, Boston Rob betrays Lex. Number 12, the jury vote ties and goes silent. Number 11, the aforementioned Operation Italy. Number 10, JT's letter to Russell. Number 9, Liz's Applebee's meltdown. Number 8, James gets voted out with 2 idols in his pocket. Number 7, Angelina asks for Natalie's jacket. Number 6, it's an effing stick. And our top 5 moments. Number 5, Wentworth will not count from Survivor's Second Chance. Number 4, another idol-based moment, Parvati's double idol play in Heroes versus Villains. Number 3, one of the most watched moments in the show's history, the Snakes and Rats speech from Survivor Borneo. Number 2, the great lie to the point where it titled the episode, Johnny Fairplay's Dead Grandma lie. And finally, the number 1 moment in Survivor history, Erik Gives Up Immunity. Gentlemen, would you like to hear some honorable mentions?
Only if it's going to make Steven happy, and you better just say his. Okay.
We'll see.
Candace has got to be.
If his love for that moment will be left as unrequited as Billy's was, I'll do the 10 that were left off of this list. I will go 35 through 26 here. So starting with 35, we go back to Survivor Borneo. We go back to the finale. It is the final immunity challenge, the hands on a hard idol. I think very specifically people point to Richard choosing to step down purposely, figuring that they both need to take him, which was, I think, seen as, again, one of the initial biggest strategic maneuvers in the show's history, especially on an individual basis. Then we have another endurance challenge classic at number 34, Christian's 6-hour challenge filibuster from Survivor David versus Goliath. Something as sweet as a nice macaroon. Then above that, Brice going to Survivor Cagayan. Jatia jumps out the rice on the Brain Tribe's fire. And we go from dumping the rice to dumping your loved one, as the moment right above that is Sierra voting out her mom from Blood versus Water, one of the most memed moments in recent Survivor history. The moment above that, and the only other new era moment to show up on this countdown, and the most recent one from Survivor 48, when Eva has her big episode following the challenge, and Joe comforts her, and Eva reveals her autism to everybody. Then right above that, it's a moment that was mentioned often as to whether it would show up on this list. Natalie Anderson asking, Jacqueline, did you vote for who I told you to vote for from the finale of Survivor San Juan del Sur? Comes in just about 5 or so shy of making it onto the list. Above that, we mentioned him before, Russell Hantz finds an idol without a clue. Showcases, I think, one of the biggest game-changing moments in the show's history as to how idols are hidden and found. Right above that, Stephen Fishbach, Billy and Candace's love story, coming in at number 28. Number 27, above that, what felt like an endurance test to wait for that moment. We have a big one here. Tom and Ian go almost 12 hours in the final immunity challenge in Survivor Palau, the epic finish to that season. And then finally, the moment that just missed out on the top 25, but was certainly worth a try. It was Adam Klein playing the podium as an idol in Survivor Winners at War.
That Tom Ian moment is like, that's better. I mean, Elizabeth Apple meltdown was something, but like that Tom Ian moment was really something else.
Yeah,
when Tom steps, I mean, when Ian steps down after that's crazy. Like, speaking of like, I mean, how is that not a bigger moment? How did that not make the top 25?
It was close. Again, there was a lot of heavy competition. It was really interesting to watch sort of the votes rise and fall, as the votes came in. Snakes and Rats, I thought was going to run away as the number one, much to my own chagrin, and ends up falling in favor of Dead Grandma, then hits number one, and then that falls behind in lieu of Erik winning immunity. Plenty of moments were falling in and out of the top 25, but honestly, again, it was tough for us to even curate it down to 100. I cannot imagine the unenviable job it took people to get that down to 25. The results bore out as they did, and this was such an incredible time. Again, it's tough to kind of put ourselves in the headspace right now of a Survivor fan, as we are already looking ahead to season 50, let alone the one that's filming in the fall. It's kind of tough to place our mind back across a quarter century of this show and all of the incredible stuff that it has provided for us. Like, it has changed my life forevermore. I know I am preaching to the choir here, and to many fans, that these moments, these contestants, these seasons, this product has fundamentally built at least some part of who we are today and who we will be moving forward. And it's been such an honor and a service to get the chance to talk through all of them, whether you agreed with the moment making the list or not, whether you agree or disagree with how it makes an impact in Survivor history. The fact of the matter is, these 25 did enough to place on this list. And this was such an incredible time. So, Brice, Stephen, thank you both for joining me on this particular podcast. I knew this was really tough to talk through. Again, some of the most talked about moments in Survivor history, but I think, as per usual, you both brought some incredible perspectives as to not only your own POV behind it, but, the general consensus as to these moments and what it meant for Survivor at the time and what it means for Survivor moving forward. So thank you both.
Thank you. This is so much fun. Got the podcast with Steven and you, and bring back my childhood, as I'm only 25. So it's like, some of these moments I wasn't born for, but oh my God, so much fun. I'm going to be on YouTube tonight. I need to see some of these videos back. I need to watch it on my TV. So again, thank you so much. This is so much fun.
Yeah. And yeah, Brice, it's so fun to finally podcast with you after all these years. And Mike, congratulations to you on doing this thing. And it's so cool that you created this celebration of the show and these great moments, that get everybody in the whole community together and like excited about it. And I think, like, to me, so much of what's special about Survivor and why it is such a part of my life is like stuff like this. It's like us all kind of like arguing and then agreeing about these like special, like cool things that impacted the show and also impacted all our lives. Cause like Brice is saying, we all remember our own lives. Like we see it through the lens of like where we were and like what it meant to us. And so Mike, like, thank you for creating this like beautiful, like celebration of the show, like across all of these, like these episodes. It's been really cool to like watch and now to like talk about.
Well, thank you so much. Honestly, the pleasure was all mine. I can talk about Survivor to Kingdom Come, and I very much relished the opportunity to do so through, again, some of the best moments across 25 years of this show. Huge thanks to everyone who came on to talk about these moments: Sam Phelan, Franny Marin, Zach Wernberger, Omer Zahir, Rachel Lamont, Kellen Bechtold, Mo Gaynor, Jake O'Kane, Owen Knight, and of course, Brice Izyah and Stephen Fishbach. huge thanks to each and every person who filled out this survey, whether it was, the players and media professionals and podcasters who filled in their ballots, helped us create that list of 100 in the first place. And of course, everybody who voted as well. This list quite literally would not have existed without you. And of course, to a man who is, in a castle right now, but he is still ruling the kingdom currently, Rob Cesternino, for, giving us the space to not only talk about this particular podcast, but like give us the platform and the venue to continue to celebrate Survivor for 15 years for the podcast, 25 years for the show. Again, we would not have been able to get the opportunity to either gather the votes to talk about this or be able to hop on and talk about any of this were it not for him. So while he's represented on the countdown by him, glowering at women stripping for chocolate and peanut butter, his role in the community looms much larger than that. So thank you so much to Rob and everyone behind the scenes at RHAP. I know that even though we are moving on from this, you two gentlemen are incredibly busy out there in the world, putting out some fantastic content for people to enjoy while we wait the interminable time between Survivor seasons. Steven, let's start with you. What would you like to plug for the listeners out there?
I do three things. Three things. I'll be fast. Okay.
Plug as much as you want. I've got a power strip. Plug in as much as you want.
Well, that power strip is also what Jenna and Heidi did. So number one is last night, or tonight when we're recording, but last night when this is viewing, we premiered our 5th episode of Survivors Play Blood on the Clock Tower. It's a super fun episode. It's our first one playing the script Sects and Violets, and it features Rob Cesternino in the commentary booth. It features Christian Hubicki as the demon, and it features, that's not a spoiler because that's like the baseline. And it features Emily Flippin. So we fortunately have some of those people who are not part of our lives right now, but who, are a big part of our Survivors Play Blood on the Clock Tower. Second, you probably have heard me talk about this already, but I have a novel that I'm extremely proud of coming out soon. If you are interested in how, reality TV and the human element of it, it's all about a guy who won his first season of a show and then goes back to his normal life. And it's like, who am I? Like, what is my identity? Like, this is normal. I want to get back to who I was on the island. And then he gets that chance to go back on the island and is so desperate to recapture that, again, can he do it? Can he really recapture his former glory? And the third shout out I want to do is to Owen Knight for being a great friend. I was watching the last episode of this show, just randomly tuning in live, and Owen Knight for his shouted out my book. That was his shout out and he gave it to me. So Owen, you are a wonderful friend and I'm so lucky to have you in my life.
All right, Brice, keep going into the power strip here. What would you like to plug?
Yes, well, the Purple Pants podcast is on their summer rewatch of Amazing Race Season 15 with my co-host, Brooke Camhigh, the winner of Amazing Race Season 29. And we are getting into the juiciness of the Globetrotters and everything is going down. So that season is so much fun. So tune in.
Thunder D sounds like he could be the name of a Globetrotter.
Absolutely. Okay, that might be somebody named Thunder D. Just text me. Anyway, I also, on a countdown of its own, I am getting ready to close out on the Brice Izyah 2026 Zaddy calendar, which will be coming soon. So stay tuned. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity, Steve and Mike. I look up to you. So to be able to podcast with you too is such an honor and a privilege.
Oh my God. It is all ours, the privilege, I should say, to get the chance to come on and talk with you about all this, to relive your 4th grade science project days. I would say this experiment was proven a great success, but I want to hear from you all. What are your reactions to the top 5 moments in Survivor history? What do you make about the way things rated? Do you feel that Erik giving away immunity is the number 1 moment? Were there any that did not make the list that you wish had? Of course, let your thoughts be known. I have been so grateful for all the feedback I've gotten throughout this process. To Steven's point, everyone enters Survivor with a different perspective, their favorite castaways, seasons, moments, and that reflects upon the list. The fans have spoken, but every fan has their own voice to speak with. So please let it be heard. Of course, we're doing plenty of stuff Survivor-wise, as we're also looking down the pike at some Big Brother coverage coming our way next week. Brandon Donlin has been doing an incredible job with the Survivor 50 files. We have now started to round the bend as we enter the new era group of castaways, but check that out if you haven't yet. For example, he got the chance to talk with Erik Reichenbach, who spoke a bit about Cirie, how he anticipates seeing her on Survivor 50 and perhaps reliving again a bit of the moment heard round the world. In addition, I am doing Survivor 48 postseason interviews as well with some standout members of the cast from that. So again, we know Survivor.com to make sure you don't miss a second of all the coverage we have going on. But that is going to do it for this coverage of the 25 greatest moments in Survivor history. This has been such a pleasure. I watched Survivor at this point, very belated 25th anniversary, but I believe that the 25th anniversary is silver, but there were plenty of gold medal moments to be given out over the course of this entire series. And I hope you all had as much fun as I did. We'll be back next time with plenty more Survivor coverage coming your way. Until next time, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.